Are you sure your remote team is really working at full capacity? Are you still relying on outdated tools and weak strategies? You might be setting yourself up for failure. Let's talk about why your remote workforce could be falling apart and how to fix it.
Welcome to the Cyber CEO podcast, where we explore business growth, innovation, and technology with insights from successful entrepreneurs.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Cyber CEO podcast. I'm your host, Haree, and today I'm joined by Amish, the COO of ICE Connect and a seasoned expert in building tech-enabled teams. Together, we're diving into a topic that's become absolutely essential in today's business world: how to build and manage a remote workforce using the latest technology. Whether you're already running a remote team or you're just considering the shift, this episode is packed with practical tips and insights to help you do it right. Amish, thanks for joining me today.
It's good to be here.
I thought we would start by talking about why we need a remote workforce. I mean, we've used it and it's working brilliantly for us, isn't it?
Yeah, the biggest thing for us is increasing the pool of potential candidates for roles. You get so much more skill that you have available if you expand where you're looking for work and you go global. It just gives you that much more.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're working out of South Africa, but it's not unbeknown to people that you can always go online to find people to do jobs for you around the world, right? You've had things like Upwork and Fiverr for a long time, and that's mainly for us in European pool of candidates, from what I see in the tech world anyway. But South Africa was never our first point of call, was it? We explored a few other options in the making.
One thing that we learned from that was you can sometimes get cheaper work in certain areas, but the problem with that is, especially for us, was time zones. And if you want people to be able to work UK hours, but they're across the other side of the world, it makes it very difficult for them, and they don't end up hanging around for too long.
That's true. We tried Philippines, and what was it, an 8-hour time difference?
Yeah, something like that.
Didn't work out too well. I mean, it's okay if you're young, but as soon as you get older, start a family and stuff like that, you don't want to be working antisocial hours. You don't want to be working up to midnight every day just to be on our time zone. And although the candidates were good and we had a good workforce there, retaining them for a long period of time proved to be a challenge, right?
Yeah, and for something like the industry that we're in, you want people to hang around for quite a while. You don't want to be chopping and changing too frequently. Certain industries, it's not so much of an issue, but with us, I think we want people who'll stay around for a little while.
Exactly, especially with the time and money it takes to invest into building the team and educating them and training them, right? Especially in our industry, it's not very easy to do. We spend a lot of time on training and coaching and certifications. If they're only here for a couple of years, it impacts us a lot. And that's more time aside to train someone else to come in as well, right?
Yeah.
If they are having to speak to customers and work to your time zone and they can't work in the evenings, that's an important thing to consider where they're based.
Yeah.
For us, South Africa works well, right? It's only
an hour, maybe
difference.
2, depending on time of year.
Yeah, so that works well for us, and I think they like it as well when they get to start an hour early, an hour later.
Bit flexibility there.
Exactly. The other thing with South Africa, if I have to mention, is the language barrier is a lot less.
Yes.
Compared to, for example, Philippines or India, which we also looked at. It was much easier to train and coach because they all speak English out there. And they were very well educated as well. Hardworking, good ethos. So I think so far South Africa has been very good for us.
Definitely.
And to bring it to tech a little bit, would you say that we based some of this decision, a small portion, if any, on the availability of Microsoft data centers? I say that from a security standpoint in that we had Microsoft Azure in South Africa, which meant that we could get people working on their virtual workstations a lot quicker, and the latency being the time delay between sending data from one site to another, was a lot shorter from South Africa, would you say?
Yes, definitely. So the speed that they're able to work at, because their VMs, their virtual machines are based in South Africa, is a lot quicker than if, for example, they were connecting into a machine that's based in the UK, because the time it takes for that data to travel from there and back obviously impacts how fast their mouse movements
Mm.
are, their typing is.
Give me a quick rundown. Why do we have these virtual machines set up for these guys, especially for the listeners who aren't in the tech world, as opposed to them just using the laptops we've given them to connect directly to our systems?
So there's two aspects to this. One is initially we didn't really give out company laptops. People were using their own devices. And from a security standpoint, that was something that we weren't comfortable with, letting them access data and house data on their personal devices. So we started off with the virtual machines. But then the other benefit of that is if there is a theft of a device or anything like that, then the data's not housed locally on that device. So even if someone breaks into it, they don't get access to anything that is critical. All of that critical information is stored on a device that's housed on a platform that we manage.
And just to be clear, right now we're using Azure virtual desktops, right? Or Windows virtual desktops.
We're using
on Azure.
Microsoft 365 virtual infrastructure.
So to cover some security points, we've got Microsoft 365 where they connect to from their house. So it doesn't really matter what machine they're connecting from. What other security precautions should we be taking when people are working remotely?
So the big ones are the obvious ones, which is antivirus, malware, and the standard security packages that you would put on devices. Should really be even on the local device, because if they are doing something locally and they upload a file or anything like that, you still want it protected.
The local device is obviously the laptop they're using to connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say antivirus products are obviously a massive thing. The other side of it is also restricting what they can access from where. So certain platforms that you have may be restricted to only being able to be accessed from your office, for example, and not from everywhere.
Yeah. And how would you do that? I know we use VPNs, for example, and that means people can't get in unless they've got a VPN. It keeps our thing completely tight and secure, and we can define who accesses it and where they access it from, specifically which devices. They couldn't, for example, take their machine on holiday with them and then start accessing the network again without us knowing, or have their device stolen, right? So I think VPN is a very important thing there.
VPN definitely is one of the key things that we do use to restrict the ability to access things. They VPN into our office network, and then everything they access is essentially from our office. Yeah.
We'll have plenty more episodes just focusing on cybersecurity. So if we were to identify, let's just say 2 or 3 things everyone should look out for, it's try and create a virtual environment so that we know and control the devices they're accessing. And that can be pretty much switched off overnight if we need to. We're not depending on them to return any devices or laptops for that security to happen. A secure connection back to head office if they need to access anything locally, such as a VPN. I do love Microsoft 365 in this scenario, and it comes with its own security, which you can implement. And again, a topic for another day in more depth, but things like restricting access from different countries, things like multi-factor authentication. So, people can't impersonate you if your devices are stolen. That all helps with building the security on these devices, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. And the other one, a big one of that being a service called Intune, which essentially allows you to control the devices that are being managed by your company, and you can remotely wipe them if need be. You can see where they're accessing it from, and it has to be a device which has been enrolled onto your platform by one of your administrators for them to access any company data.
Yeah, perfect. So I would strongly recommend that. And that Intune comes with the Microsoft 365 premium license, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to be on a premium license for that. Let's move on to talking about building company culture. And this was most probably where you have worked really hard, or we as a company have worked tirelessly to try and build company culture. It was very easy when everyone was in the office.
Yes.
You're shoulder to shoulder. You can have conversations on the side, walk down the road for a few drinks after work. Tell me the challenges we're facing with remote working.
The biggest challenge we had was getting everyone to have an open channel of communication so that the person working on their own at home didn't feel isolated.
Yeah.
And trying to shift everyone away from just having the conversations in the office to actually typing them out on a communications platform. We use Slack, for example. It took a bit of time and it took a bit of reminding every now and then for people to start doing it. But once we expanded the team, especially, and people realized that they have to start using the chat, it's become great. We still have the banter that we had in the office. We just do it on Slack.
Yeah. I think it's a lot easier as well with messaging apps, because if someone's shouting something out at you, it's almost like you have to do it straight away, right?
Yeah.
Where if you've got a message come through on Slack or on Teams, I know it's sitting there. I'll get to it once I've finished what I'm working on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which makes it a lot easier. The only downside, and I know this is very common for a lot of companies, things can get miscommunicated on channels such as Slack and Teams, right? So there has to be a little bit of understanding, a little bit of give from everyone who's using these platforms. People's mindsets are different. People's thought patterns are different. People's cultures are different in their own countries. They might not get a joke, which you're saying, and vice versa. And, British are known to be quite sarky at the best of times. And a lot of people abroad don't understand that level of sarcasm as well. So
this is something
very important to mentor this.
This is something that we've kept reminding people, and we do reiterate quite frequently, actually, is that people may misunderstand your tone, and it's also very hard to portray your tone when you're just typing a message. So the two things are, when you're typing something, be careful what you're sending. Just read it again before you send it. Make sure it's not a bit too brash or insulting. And if you're receiving a message, the other side of it is, don't read into it too much. If you are in any doubt of what it means, just call the person and find out.
I think that's the other big point you've jumped on there, is although we try to simplify our life with things like Slack and Teams, there's no harm in still picking up the phone to people. There's no harm in talking to them or even jumping on a video call. It's so easy within these platforms to do. You could just say, oh, look, I'm going to video you in 5 minutes or something. Just face-to-face communication is still there.
Yeah.
You don't have to be physically present. And I think that's very, very important, and it helps build that culture. One thing I think we do very well, and it's something we started quite a while ago, is at least once a month, the whole team jumps on to our video calls.
Yeah.
One person alternating every session. It can be absolutely anyone picked at random.
Yeah.
Presents something of interest to the team, whether it's work-related or personal. It doesn't have to be work-related. But you get to know that person. You get to build a personality for that person.
Yeah, random stuff like we've had stuff on crypto being taught on these completely not work related, but it's great fun to learn about.
So it's important to have this, right? So everyone can see each other's faces, especially people working in different teams. They don't have to always be on the same team. It works out very well when you rarely speak to someone, but now you can put a face to the name.
Exactly.
You know what they're about. You know what kind of personality they have. So that's important. And again, that comes along with the tools we're working with, right? So we mentioned Slack and Teams, for example. I would say virtual desktops are good tools to use for remote teams. You kind of need to be on Microsoft 365 now if you're using a remote team as well. And these pieced together form a really good remote work setup and very secure from our perspective. So I think making sure you've got the right tools in place for people to be able to communicate, for people to do their job quickly and easily, and collaborate. Collaboration is really important with remote teams, right?
Collaboration is a massive thing. The other side of this is also tools that allow you to implement processes. Things like that are really important as well. So within Slack, for example, you can have automations where people just click a button and it will get them to fill out a form, and that starts the process of whatever you want it to do.
Example of one which we use?
An example for us is if we need to order a license on Microsoft 365, there's a few people that are allowed to actually place that order because it involves costs and all of that. we have a process where one of the junior staff can just trigger a form, fill it out saying, this is the customer, this is the license that's required. They submit it. It tags the people who can order the licenses, and then the license gets ordered. The person who's ordered it clicks a button, it says completed, it notifies the original technician that it's been done.
So these are built-in workflows on Slack as well, right?
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about. And I presume you can do something similar on Teams as well.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So one important thing, and I know I had this concern very early on, partly still do. And I know a lot of business owners out there who are trying to build a remote team or already have a remote team. They're worried about performance. They're worried about people sitting at home. They've got 2 feet up on the desk, watching TV on one side and pretending to do work on the other side.
Yeah,
And
just
that's
flicking
not
on those.
really the case, right? And I think we're always thinking about the worst case scenario. We're always, from a business owner's perspective, to put it bluntly, we're looking for bang for buck. We're looking to think, we're spending X amount on this person's salary. We don't want them sitting at home watching TV
Exactly.
whilst we're paying them to work. Talk me through what processes you've implemented for our team to ensure that doesn't happen.
The biggest thing is still communication. When you see messages going back and forth between people, you can see that they are actively working. But in terms of the actual processes, I think the biggest thing that any company can do to track remote working is introduce strong, solid KPIs, things that are measurable. You tell each member of the team that this is what's expected of you. And as long as they're delivering on those KPIs, it doesn't matter sort of whether they're only working for 6 of the 8 hours that they're contracted to work for, 4 of the 8 hours. If they're meeting those KPIs, those targets, then ultimately they're delivering on what they are being paid to do.
Oh, I think you and I might disagree on this one, Amish. If they're only working 4 of those hours of the 8 they're getting paid to work, that means we're not giving them enough.
This is where setting those KPIs, setting those deliverables is very important, and reviewing them. So if you find that they are only working 4 hours consistently, that means that, yes, they might have too little to do, so you increase what they're expected to deliver on.
I think we've also got, for example, on Slack, the communication response times, for example.
Yes.
We know how quick someone responds. We've got statuses to say, we're out for lunch or something, or we're not at our desk, and, there's a messaging system in there to say back in an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
So although we don't have to be very rigid about the rules, there are ways to communicate where people are and what they're doing at any particular time without being too intrusive, right?
And as a worst case scenario, if they aren't delivering on their KPIs, but they are working from home or working remotely, there are lots of tools that you can use, and that a lot of big industries do use. Things like, as an example, ActiveTrack. There's other platforms out there that are similar, where you can track what the person is doing. You can see screenshots of what they're doing and things like that. You can track their active time as well. That, for me, there's a trust issue there where you don't want to implement that, in my view, right from the get-go. I feel like that is a last-ditch thing if someone's not delivering.
Yeah, I think it's also, it is intrusive on someone's work, right, if you're having to do that. And you kind of had to have got down the line quite a bit to say we are at the point of installing monitoring software on your machine. I think what is a good policy to have is a work from home policy, which clearly identifies what people are allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. If work from home actually means work from home, or if it means work from anywhere outside the office, i.e. you could take your family on holiday and between the hours of 9 and 5, as long as you're working, it doesn't matter where from. Some companies have that and allow that.
Yeah.
So it's very important you do that. And then the procedures which are involved if the company feels you're not working very well. Just to give you an example of some of the KPIs we implement, we've got, for example, on our L1s, these are our junior engineers, we monitor how many calls they answer, how long they're spending on calls, how many tickets they're dealing with, how many tickets they're closing. All of this gives us an idea of how much work they're taking on and what we know that they're capable of handling as a general rule of thumb. And these translate into KPIs, which we then monitor and we can sit down. And I think the other thing which is important is sitting with the team or communicating with every remote person, perhaps once a quarter is what we kind of do at the moment, making sure we've caught up with them, how things going, what's going good, what's not going good kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they know that we're still there for them, and we kind of have to help handhold them and nurture them a little bit into the organization. A lot of people who are moving into this remote work haven't done it before. They've all come from offices. It's all new for them, isn't it?
One thing that I've started to do, which you actually recommended, was monthly check-ins. And this isn't just with remote staff, this is with everyone. And it's just to check in to see how are things going. Is there anything we need to change? And you find that this is where people are sometimes a bit scared to approach management with an issue. But if you go to them and specifically ask them, is there anything I can do to help you work better? And then you suddenly get input back where people are saying, oh, my laptop is really slow. Would I be able to get a new one? Or things like that, where they've not been able to work properly, but they've been too scared to bring it up. Especially for remote stuff, I found with South Africa, some of the staff there they're very hesitant to approach management for anything because they feel like they'll be looked at badly for complaining.
That's news to me, actually, but yeah, I don't really deal with the day-to-day, so maybe not so much something someone would approach me with. Moving on to the future. There's a lot of stuff in the press about big banks cancelling remote working and come back to the office, otherwise we're cancelling your contract and stuff like this. My opinion is remote working is here to stay, but more of a hybrid model. And all the evidence proves it. I think there was a BBC News article in July which basically turned around and said the majority of companies are keeping remote working, but it's going to be more of a hybrid model.
Yeah, I think on average, I just based on a few things that I've seen, on average, people are expected to be in the office at least 2 to 3 days a week. Most companies are trying to enforce that, and I think from my perspective, it is a good model to have because it gives you the flexibility of working from home and that sort of the balance of work life on the 2 or 3 days that you're working from home. You can wake up late, you can get stuff done in the evenings, lunchtime, whatever. And the other side of it is you're in the office, you're meeting the team face to face, and I think that is still a very important aspect of the team because if you don't meet people in real life, there seems to be a disconnect. So I think it's helpful to have the hybrid model.
I mean, look, that obviously works for people who live within a reasonable travel distance from the office.
Yeah.
There is this thought to say that if you want to go fully remote and you're working for a UK company and you want to stay in the UK and you want a UK salary, I'm starting to think that's not totally feasible going forward. And the reason I say that is you've got all the other countries outside of UK and possibly even Europe at much cheaper salaries to do exactly the same job. Now, if you want to go fully remote, why is that organization you want to go fully remote with not going to employ outside of your country, outside of the UK, right? Almost half of the salary. So that's a very important thing. To give you that competitive edge, you've got to be able to have the ability to go into the office at some point and talk to people. But the other way we try and do this office environment or culture to the people who do permanently work remotely is, for example, ours in South Africa. I think it works very well. About 3-4 times a year, we fly them all out to the same destination within South Africa. Let them have a big old jolly on us. You know, we pay for all the flights, hotels, food and drink, whatever, for a couple of days. And I think that works very well. That makes them feel part of a team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing is just regular video calls with team members. We've got weekly meetings where everyone sits in on a video call and just has a chat for half an hour.
Yeah, I think the culture of office environment is important, even if you are working remotely. I think that's very important, especially from a business owner's perspective. We want to see that happening. You know, they used to call it the water cooler chats, where you can stand around it and, you know, you've both gone up to get a glass of water and there's a fresh new idea that's come out, or let's work on this together, or I've got this problem. And you kind of do lose a little bit of that when it comes to having to communicate it over chat or over the phone, I, for one, still love face-to-face communication. I will settle for video calls,
Yeah.
but I prefer in person. But yeah, there's a whole chain of thought around that. It's dependent on, I guess, what generation you're brought up in now, right?
Yeah, I think
The new generation
that's a
is
big
all
thing at the moment. It is very generational, and more you're getting, especially the new generation coming into work, have come in during COVID where it was fully remote. They've never been in an office before. And
Yeah,
now
that's
you're
very
telling them
true.
you have to come in, and they're sort of the whole anxiety and all of that is coming out, and they're just like, I don't know what this means. I don't know how to do this. And it's been an experience hiring people who haven't actually had to come into an office before. They've worked remotely fully, and now you're telling them, no, actually, we operate on a hybrid model, so you are going to have to come in a few days a week.
Yeah, it's very true. And dare I say it, some people we've had turn up don't even know how to behave in an office.
Yeah.
Because they've never had to really step into one. And then there are others who have always been in the office and they're like, I'm never coming back. I want to stay at home. I love the life. And there is a great idea that you can stay home and do the things. You've saved yourself a couple of hours of travel and all of that as well, which you mentioned earlier. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So look,
on the
sorry, go on.
sort of on the lack of commute, the one thing I found there is also, and I've noticed that with our team, is the people who are working on the days that they're working from home, there's quite a few occasions where they will stay on for an extra half an hour to finish things off. Whereas if they were in the office, they want to get out at as soon as they're finished for the day, because they know that they've got an hour to drive to get home. Whereas if they're already at home, they'll stay on for a little bit longer just to finish off whatever they're dealing with.
For someone listening to this who already has a remote team in place or looking to set up a remote team, let's go through a few action points for them to consider or what they need to look at. Look at the existing setup, identify areas of communication which may be lacking.
Yep.
Cybersecurity, I think that's a massive one. Have a look
one.
at how everyone's securely working remotely. Are they working off their devices, company devices? What happens if that gets stolen and someone steals their identity and stuff? Can they get access to company resources? Big one on security. And I think another big one is the culture. What are you doing to improve your company culture? Making people from the office talk to your remote team and vice versa, and make sure there's constant communication.
Yes.
And everyone feels part of the team as well.
Yeah,
right?
You have to make everyone feel included, because otherwise you're going to lose people.
Yeah, and I think the final one is the tools you use, right? So we, for example, absolutely live on Slack. And that is all of our messaging, that is our workflows, that is our now task lists to some degree. We've got our video calls all happening in there. So that is a massive hub of the environment of our office culture as well now, right?
So one of my big pieces of advice to anyone who is trying to get a good remote workforce is invest in the tools. They may seem expensive for some of them, but 100% they will save you a lot of money in the long run by increasing efficiency, by fostering a good culture, and just generally enabling your team to work better.
Amish, thank you very much for joining me on today's podcast.
Thank you.
Until the next one, see you soon.
Yep. See ya.
Today, Amish and I explored the ins and outs of building a tech-enabled remote workforce. We discussed the tools you need, the cybersecurity measures to put in place, and how to maintain a strong company culture, even when your team is spread out. Remember, the key to successful remote teams lies in choosing the right technology, setting clear expectations, and fostering a healthy work-life balance. We hope you found some valuable insights today and you can apply to your own business. Until next time, stay innovative and keep pushing your business forward.
Thanks for tuning in to the Cyber CEO podcast. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow entrepreneurs. For more tips on tech and business growth, visit our website, thecyberceo.com. Keep innovating and see you in the next episode.